Batista's birth is an interesting story. The future WWE star's mother went into labor in Maryland. However, she refused to have her child born anywhere besides Washington, D.C., so Batista's father drove them to the capital of the U.S., and a future WWE champion entered the world. However, life wasn't so glamorous for the young Batista. His father would leave the family, and 3 people had been killed on Batista's front lawn before he was even 9 years old. Because of this, Batista's family moved across the country to San Francisco, California, but unfortunately, trouble would continue. As young as 13 years old, Batista was stealing cars, and by 17, he was kicked out of his parents' house and living on his own. This would lead to Batista working as a bouncer and eventually getting into bodybuilding. The Animal did this for about 10 years, but at a life-changing moment when he had to ask a coworker if he could borrow money to buy Christmas presents for his children. The embarrassment made Batista want to change his life and led to him training to become a wrestler at 30 years old. He eventually got connected with Afa Anawahi, who was one half of the Wild Samoans in WWE. Afa could see that Batista was someone special and got the Animal a tryout with WWE. One day later, WWE offered Batista a job, and he began training at their development system, Ohio Valley Wrestling. The future world champion would spend about 2 years there until it came time for him to make his WWE debut. On the May 9th, 2002 episode of SmackDown, Vince McMahon was meeting with his spiritual advisor, Reverend Devon. McMahon asked if he was here, to which Devon said yes. A little later on, we found out who he was. When Reverend Devon came out for his match at Triple H, he was accompanied by a huge man. This monster of a being was named Deacon Batista, and he was there to protect Devon's building fund. The Reverend's match at Triple H started soon after, where Deacon Batista would help Devon by attacking the game while the referee wasn't looking. However, it was thanks to interference by Chris Jericho that ultimately got Devon the win. Things stayed mostly the same for the next few weeks, with Deacon Batista being the muscle for Reverend Devon. However, the future Animal would eventually drop the Deacon and just be referred to as Batista. Finally, 7 weeks after he debuted, the Animal would be unleashed and competed in his first WWE match. As expected, Batista's debut match was a tag team contest with Reverend Devon. Their opponents were Farouk and, ironically, Randy Orton. Devon and Orton started the match, and it took nearly 3 minutes before Batista did anything. Once he was the legal man, Batista quickly took Randy Orton down with a monstrous clothesline. The Animal then took out Farouk, rammed Randy Orton to the corner, and then finished his future Evolution teammate off with a vicious spinebuster to get the pin. The tag team match itself was pretty enjoyable, and while Batista looked excellent, I think they went a bit too far. The man only hit 4 moves, one of which was a push into the turnbuckles, and the other was a shove off the apron. Maybe Batista was just limited at the time, so this is their way of hiding it, but it felt like WWE was trying to make Batista seem really strong by having him win with just a few moves. Anyways, Batista would continue to tag with Devon until August 8th, 2002, when the former Deacon had his first ever singles match against Rikishi. However, due to an unintended attack by Devon, Rikishi beat Batista and gave him his first loss. This created tension between the two, and ultimately led to Batista turning on his mentor a few weeks later. They soon fought one-on-one, where Batista got even by laying out the Reverend. Shortly after that, Batista was moved over to the Raw brand. There he formed an alliance with Ric Flair, which helped him score a victory over Kane at the final pay-per-view of 2002, Armageddon. Soon after, Batista would join former enemies Triple H and Randy Orton, as well as Ric Flair, to form Evolution. This helped solidify Batista's career, but it actually didn't start out that great for the Animal. About a month after Evolution was formed, Batista tore his right tricep muscle at an untelevised WWE show. Because of this, Batista spent much of 2003 sidelined. He returned in October, attacking and injuring Goldberg, and in doing so, got the bounty Triple H had placed on the World Heavyweight Champion. The Animal picked up right where he left off and continued assisting his Evolution teammates. At the final pay-per-view of the year, Armageddon, Batista and Ric Flair teamed up and won the World Tag Team Championship, the first title Batista ever won in WWE. They would, however, lose the titles about 2 months later to Booker T and Rob Van Dam, but won the belts back just a few weeks after that. Around that same time, Batista was gearing up for his first WrestleMania match. Along with Ric Flair and Randy Orton, the Animal fought Mick Foley and The Rock in a handicap match. While Batista didn't get the pin, Evolution was victorious at the grandest stage for them all. The momentum from the big win didn't last long, however. Shortly after WrestleMania, Batista and Flair lost the World Tag Team Championship again, this time to Edge and Chris Benoit, and the Evolution partners would never regain the gold. Batista would continue to help his teammates in the following months, but he started to change. The Animal wouldn't agree with everything the group did, and even started to butt heads with the leader, Triple H. However, Batista remained part of Evolution even when the group kicked out Randy Orton after he won the World Heavyweight Championship. Batista would also help the game regain the world title when Triple H fought Randy Orton at Unforgiven 2004. While Batista continued to support Triple H, the Washington native went against the King of Kings' wishes and entered the 2005 Royal Rumble match. On top of that, Batista won after that infamous botched ending where Batista and John Cena both went over the top rope. After the victory, Batista had a choice of which championship he would challenge for at WrestleMania, either Triple H's World Heavyweight title title or JBL's WWE Championship. The game tried to get the Animal to challenge for the WWE title. He showed an interview of JBL mocking Batista, and later, a limo that looked like JBL's nearly ran over the Animal. Thankfully, Triple H was in the right place at the right time. However, Batista and the fans would later find out that it was all set up by the King of Kings. Triple H's plan to keep Batista from challenging him had failed, and the Animal chose the game as his WrestleMania opponent. The now former teammates went one-on-one at the grandest stage of them all, where the Animal reigned supreme. In the aftermath, Batista and Triple H fought 2 more times, but Batista was unstoppable. Soon after, Batista was drafted from Raw to SmackDown and took the World Heavyweight Championship with him. Upon his return to SmackDown, Batista attacked JBL, who had just become the #1 contender for the world title. They officially fought a few weeks later at the Great American Bash pay-per-view. During the match, JBL's henchman, Orlando Jordan, tried to attack the world champion with a steel chair. Batista instead grabbed the chair and hit Orlando and JBL with it. This caused the match to end in a disqualification, and the Animal walked away with the title. Batista and JBL went at it again at SummerSlam in a no-holds-barred match, where Batista was the decisive winner. After JBL, Batista moved on to another former WWE champion, Eddie Guerrero. Batista beat Latino Heat at No Mercy, but did sing him happy birthday after the match. After that, the Animal became a target of Big Show and Kane, the World Tag Team Champions. Batista sort of got his hands on them at Survivor Series when he captained Team SmackDown against Team Raw, which Show and Kane were a part of. While Batista did get eliminated, his brand was successful. Batista still had unfinished business with Kane and Big Show though, so he got a tag team partner, Rey Mysterio. They defeated the tag team champions M&M to win the titles and then fought Big Show and Kane 2 days later. Unfortunately, the Animal and the Luchador weren't so fortunate in that encounter. Even worse, about 2 weeks later, Batista and Rey would lose their tag championship back to M&M when a returning Mark Henry interfered in their match. The world's strongest man specifically targeted Batista and made it clear he was coming for the Animal's World Championship. However, in early 2006, Batista would get injured at a non-televised WWE show. About a week later, Batista would be forced to relinquish the title to undergo surgery, ending his World Championship reign at 280 days. While recovering, Batista appeared at WrestleMania 22 and said that the World Heavyweight title would be back around his waist by next year's WrestleMania. It was a big goal, and the only way Batista was going to achieve it was by getting faster and stronger. Something that would have helped the Animal is HelloFresh, the sponsor of this video. If you are looking for an easy way to save money, time, and eat well, let me introduce you to HelloFresh. HelloFresh delivers fresh ingredients and easy recipes right to your home. You select what meals you want from their 40 weekly recipes, and HelloFresh provides you with the ingredients and instructions to make them. That's one of the things I like about HelloFresh. The instructions are simple, and it only takes about 15 to 20 minutes until your meal is ready. But my favorite thing is that while HelloFresh's meals are easy to make, they're still nutritious and help you eat better without having to do a lot of legwork. Plus, HelloFresh has 6 different meal plans to choose from, depending on what you're looking for. And, most importantly, the food is delicious. Now here's what's really cool. Go to HelloFresh.com and use code TAPOUT65 for 65% off plus free shipping. Yeah, that's right. If you go to HelloFresh.com right now and use code TAPOUT65, you'll get 65% off and free shipping. I made it easy for you. Just hit the link in the description and it'll take you right where you need to go. I give HelloFresh one big Batista thumbs up. Speaking of which, the Animal finally got a start on his goal of becoming World Heavyweight Champion again in July 2006, when he officially returned to in-ring action. The Animal immediately called out Mark Henry, but before they could go one-on-one, Mark Henry would be injured. Instead, Batista began a feud with Mr. Kennedy. Batista would technically lose to Kennedy 2 times, the first by disqualification and the second by countout. Finally, in their third match, Batista got the pinfall victory over the man from Green Bay, Wisconsin. After that, Batista focused on his goal of becoming World Heavyweight Champion. The man holding the title was King Booker, and the Animal got a shot at SummerSlam 2006. However, due to Booker's wife, Sharmell, the Animal won the match, but not the heavyweight title. Batista got another shot at the next pay-per-view, No Mercy, in a Fatal 4-Way match, but the gold slipped through his fingers again. Finally, after all the fails, Batista regained the World Heavyweight Championship at Survivor Series. The Animal ended the year on a high note, but as 2007 started, Batista came face to face with an old rival, Mr. Kennedy. They fought it out at the 2007 Royal Rumble, where the world champion proved his superiority by beating Kennedy again. That same night, The Undertaker won the Royal Rumble match and later chose Batista as his WrestleMania opponent. Before that, The Animal and the Dead Man teamed up to take on John Cena and Shawn Michaels at No Way Out. During the match, Batista betrayed his tag team partner and, in doing so, turned heel for the first time since his days in Evolution. This added fuel to the fire in the lead-up to WrestleMania 23. Like Batista claimed 1 year ago, he did walk into the event as the World Heavyweight Champion. Unfortunately for him, he did not walk out the same. The Phenom defeated the World Champ and not only took Batista's title, but also gave the Animal his first defeat at WrestleMania. Batista wasn't going down that easily though. They fought again at the next pay-per-view Backlash, where the match ended after Batista speared The Undertaker off the stage. A third match was set up on SmackDown shortly after, this time in a steel cage. The match also ended in a draw, but Edge, who had the Money in the Bank contract, cashed in and stole the Phenom's World Heavyweight Championship. Batista then turned his attention to the Rated R Superstar and fought him at Judgment Day, but was unsuccessful. The Animal got another shot at vengeance, but the match had a special stipulation. If Batista didn't win, then he could never challenge Edge for the World Heavyweight Championship. The former champion took his shot, but unfortunately, the risk did not pay off. However, the stipulation ended up not really mattering because Edge would have to relinquish the title soon after, and a 20-man battle royal was set up to crown the new heavyweight champion. Batista entered the match, but was one of the final men eliminated by the Great Khali. Both Batista and Kane would challenge the new world champion just 2 days later at the Great American Bash pay-per-view. However, Khali won the match. About a month later, Batista got his one-on-one fight with the Indian Giant at SummerSlam. Despite an impressive performance, the Animal did not become a 3-time world champion, due to Great Khali getting himself disqualified. Finally though, after 9 title matches, Batista finally won the World Heavyweight Championship again, when he defeated the Great Khali and Rey Mysterio in a triple threat match at Unforgiven. Batista and the Great Khali would square off one more time in a Punjabi prison match, where the Animal had his hand raised at the end of that one too. Around this time, Batista's old rival, The Undertaker, returned, and the two reignited their feud. They fought at Cyber Sunday, where fans voted to have Stone Cold Steve Austin be the special guest referee. Undertaker hit the champion with a lot of big moves, but Batista somehow managed to stay alive. Finally, after executing not one, but 2 Batista bombs, the Animal was able to end the match. Of course, it didn't stop there, and Batista would come face to face with the Dead Man again, this time inside Hell in a Cell. It was another brutal match, but the ending was different. Edge had disguised himself as a cameraman and attacked The Undertaker. He then plays Batista over Taker, allowing the Animal to win. In the aftermath, Vicky Guerrero, who was the SmackDown general manager and Edge's love interest, set up a World Heavyweight Championship match between Batista and the Rated R Superstar. However, Undertaker pulled an Uno reverse and interfered in the match, causing a no contest. This set up a triple threat match at the final pay-per-view of 2007, Armageddon, during which 2 other Edges appeared and helped the real Edge win. These 2 guys later turned out to be Zack Ryder and Kurt Hawkins. Unfortunately for Batista, the year ended without any championship gold, but fun fact, Batista was part of every single World Heavyweight Championship match on pay-per-view in 2007. Anyways, the Animal was anxious to get the gold back around his waist, and he had that opportunity at the 2008 Royal Rumble. This is the first time since 2005 that the 3-time world champion had been in the Rumble match. Batista entered at number 8 and made it all the way to the final 3. However, unlike in 2005, Batista got thrown over the top rope and was eliminated for real. I guess lightning only strikes once. Or does it? Anyways, the Animal had one more shot at the World Heavyweight Championship match at the next pay-per-view, No Way Out. The Animal was one of 6 men who competed in the Elimination Chamber match, where the winner would challenge Edge for the title at WrestleMania 24. Like the Royal Rumble, Batista made it to the very end, but was the last man eliminated by his former foe, The Undertaker. With no championship opportunity available to him, Batista took a more low-key route and faced Umaga at WrestleMania. The Animal Batista bombed his way to victory, which gave him momentum going to his next feud with Shawn Michaels. On the SmackDown after WrestleMania, Batista confronted HBK, who had just defeated Ric Flair and forced the Nature Boy to retire. The Animal said Shawn was selfish and egotistical for what he did, which ultimately set up a match between them at Backlash. Chris Jericho was added in as a special guest referee, but during the match, it appeared that Michaels had injured his knee. It turned out to be fake, and HBK used it to help him defeat Batista and win. In the aftermath, Batista earned the right to a rematch with Shawn Michaels at the next pay-per-view, One Night Stand. The stakes were raised by making it a stretcher match, and this did the trick for Batista, as he defeated Shawn and ended their feud. The next big chapter in Batista's career was when he was drafted from SmackDown to Raw. Batista had the opportunity to take the World Heavyweight Championship with them when he faced Edge at Night of Champions. However, thanks to shenanigans involving Zack Ryder, Kurt Hawkins, Vicky Guerrero, and Chavo, Edge won the match. The next night, Batista got even and laid out the world champion. This allowed the Money in the Bank winner, CM Punk, to cash in and win the gold. The Animal then won a Fatal 4-Way match to become the #1 contender for the belt. He and CM Punk faced off at the Great American Bash, but Batista was unable to win his 4th World Championship due to interference by Kane. This set up a rematch between CM Punk and Batista the next night, which, fun fact, was the last TV-14 WWE match before Raw went PG. Anyways, during the rematch, JBL interfered. John Cena ran in to help, but accidentally hit Batista instead. This started a brawl that required WWE officials to break up. The next week, Batista said he had no issues with John Cena, but Cena found that hard to believe. Regardless, the two would be put into a tag team match against JBL and Kane that Batista and Cena won. Then, it was announced that Cena and Batista would face off at SummerSlam, the first time they had ever fought in a one-on-one match. Even then, the Animal and John Cena would continue teaming together, and they actually won the World Tag Team Championship. However, tension began to rise between the SummerSlam opponents. This resulted in them losing the tag team titles a week after winning them. With tempers flaring, the two faces of WWE finally went one-on-one 6 years after they debuted. The fans are split on who they wanted to see win, and both men laid out everything they had. The match was so physical that John Cena legitimately got injured during it. In the end though, Batista won. This gave the Animal loads of momentum going into his next big match, the World Heavyweight Championship Scramble. It looked like Batista was finally going to become world champion again, but a sneaky Chris Jericho got the pinfall during the final seconds and won. However, this was only a delay. Batista became the #1 contender at the next pay-per-view No Mercy, and then challenged Jericho for the title at Cyber Sunday. Ironically, just like the year before, not only was Batista competing for the World Heavyweight Championship, but fans voted to have Stone Cold be the special guest referee again. The match turned to chaos as the other candidates for referee, Shawn Michaels and Randy Orton, also got involved. In the end though, Austin hit a stunner and Batista finally became a 4-time world champion. However, the celebration was short-lived. Just 8 days later, Batista fought Chris Jericho in a rematch and lost the championship. The next week, Batista opened up old wounds with his former teammate Randy Orton. This ultimately led to Batista and Orton captaining rival Survivor Series teams. Despite making 2 eliminations on his own, Batista's team fell to the Vipers. While the battle was over, the war was far from finished. To close out the year, Batista fought Randy Orton one-on-one at Armageddon. This time, the Animal came out on top, but Randy wasn't done. The next night on Raw, Batista teamed with his SummerSlam opponent, John Cena, to take on Randy Orton, Cody Rhodes, and Manu, who called themselves The Legacy. During the match, Orton hit Batista with a punt kick. The attack caused a head injury and put the Animal out of action. In reality, Batista had suffered a tear in his hamstring during his match at SummerSlam earlier in the year and needed time for surgery. Batista would make his return the night after WrestleMania 25. The Animal attacked The Legacy and saved Triple H as well as Vince and Shane McMahon. This set up a 6-man tag team match at Backlash where Batista, The Game, and Shane fought The Legacy. However, there was a special stipulation that if Triple H's team lost in any way, then he would lose the WWE Championship. This led to a moment where Batista brought out a steel chair, only for Triple H to stop him. The distraction allowed Randy Orton to strike and get the pinfall and take the WWE title. The next night, Batista would get an opportunity to face Randy Orton alone when he fought Big Show in a #1 contenders match. Thanks to a distraction by John Cena, the Animal won and locked in his match with Orton. The Animal and the Viper went one-on-one at Judgment Day, where Batista won via disqualification after Orton slapped the referee. This led to a rematch at Extreme Rules that was inside a steel cage. With no one able to interfere, the Animal finally defeated his former Evolution brother and won the WWE Championship for the first time. However, like Batista's last world title reign, this one was short-lived. The next night, the new WWE Champion was attacked by Randy Orton and The Legacy. The attack injured Batista and sidelined him again. Like before, the purpose was to tend to a real-life injury. About 3 months later, Batista returned, and it looked like he was going to retire. Randy Orton thought so too, but the Animal revealed he was healthy and was going to be moving to SmackDown. Before heading back to the Blue brand, Batista fought Randy Orton in a no-holds-barred match and won, putting an end to their feud once and for all. In his first 2 matches on SmackDown, Batista defeated Chris Jericho and The Big Show, who were the unified tag team champions. This earned Batista a championship match, and all he needed was a partner. Enter in Rey Mysterio. The Animal and the Masked Luchador restarted their tag team and faced Jericho and Show at Hell in a Cell. Unlike in 2005 though, Batista and Rey could not win the gold. Despite the defeat, Vince McMahon would personally select the two to be part of a Fatal 4-Way match for the World Heavyweight Championship. The 2 other participants were CM Punk and the champion, The Undertaker. During the match, Mysterio broke up Batista's pin attempt, which resulted in The Undertaker hitting the Animal with a Tombstone Piledriver and winning the match. Afterward, Batista shared his frustrations and then attacked his now former friend. To Batista's defense, Rey was supposed to be his friend.
You're supposed to be my friend!
Anyways, the two would have a match against each other at Survivor Series. Batista gave Mysterio 3 Batista bombs, forcing the referee to stop the match and give the victory to the Animal. Rey and Batista would meet a few weeks later in a street fight, where Batista won once again. The former world champion needed all the momentum he could get, as he then found himself in a heavyweight championship match against The Undertaker. Their match was at TLC, and was appropriately enough a chairs match. At first, Batista was awarded the victory after he hit the dead man with a low blow behind the referee's back. However, the SmackDown General Manager, Teddy Long, gave a hold up playa, and then the match restarted, where The Undertaker got the last laugh. Going into 2010, Batista made his 4th Royal Rumble appearance, entering at number 30. Unfortunately, he was eliminated by John Cena. This reignited their rivalry, which got even more heated soon after the Rumble. Batista would align himself with Vince McMahon, who was feuding with Bret Hart. The Animal was helping McMahon beat down the Hitman, which prompted John Cena to make the save. However, Batista ended up attacking him as well. Fast forward to Elimination Chamber, John Cena had just won the WWE Championship. Right after winning, McMahon gave Batista a title match, which allowed the Animal to win the belt in 30 seconds. In the aftermath, Cena wanted a rematch at WrestleMania. Vince McMahon said Cena could have his match if he could defeat Batista that night. However, it ended up being another quick match, as Batista low-blowed Cena and intentionally got himself disqualified, making the WrestleMania match official. Finally, for the first time since their SummerSlam match in 2008, Batista and John Cena would get a proper one-on-one match. However, this time, John Cena won after he made the Animal tap out. Batista wasn't finished yet and used his rematch clause in the next pay-per-view, Extreme Rules. Cena and Batista fought in a last man standing match where John famously won by duct taping his opponent's legs together. The next night, Batista beat Randy Orton and Sheamus to get another opportunity to reclaim the WWE Championship. A week later, both Batista and John Cena would fight in beat-the-clock matches, and the man who won in the shortest amount of time would get to pick the match stipulation. Cena got the better in that contest, and chose an I Quit match, which was ironic considering what would happen next. The Animal and the face of WWE laced up their boots one more time at Over the Limit. John Cena is legally not allowed to say I and quit in the same sentence, so of course he won, but still decided to get Batista and AA off the stage. The night after the match, Batista said he quit again, and this time it was permanent. After roughly 8 years in WWE, the Animal was done. He set off to become an actor and said he would never come back to wrestling until he made it. It was a hard battle, as Batista himself said he couldn't get a job and struggled financially. Despite this, the Animal never gave up, and things eventually turned around. In March 2013, Batista was cast in a Marvel movie called Guardians of the Galaxy. This was the turning point in Batista's acting career, and after filming wrapped up in October 2013, the Animal was finally ready to return to the ring. On January 20th, 2014, Batista came back to WWE. He embraced Triple H and also made it clear to the WWE World Heavyweight Champion, Randy Orton, the Animal was here to win the title. While Batista wouldn't wrestle that night, he did get in on some action. In the lead up to Batista's return, Alberto Del Rio had been saying that fans should be talking about him and not Batista. Del Rio also vowed to eliminate the Animal from the Royal Rumble. On the night of his return, Batista responded by attacking Alberto Del Rio after a match. With the adrenaline flowing, Batista was all ready for the 2014 Royal Rumble. The Animal entered at number 28 and won the entire thing, making him one of 9 men to win the Rumble multiple times. However, the victory was met with massive backlash, even though Batista was supposed to be a good guy. Despite this, the Animal still had unfinished business with Alberto Del Rio. The two squared off at the Elimination Chamber pay-per-view, where the master of the Batista Bomb won. Batista fought Del Rio once again the next night, but this time lost, thanks to interference by his WrestleMania opponent, Randy Orton. Soon after, Batista would turn on the fans, saying he did not come back to be liked and he was there to become champion. The Animal finally got his chance to do that once WrestleMania 30 arrived, but in addition to fighting Randy Orton, Daniel Bryan had also been added to the match. Despite Batista's claims that he could defeat anyone WWE put in front of him, he was unable to escape the yes lock and tapped out. This made Batista 3-3 at WrestleMania. The next night, Batista had another shot at championship gold when he and Randy Orton were put in a title match against the tag team champions, the Usos. However, the match would end in a double countout. Later on, Randy Orton and Batista, as well as Kane, attacked Daniel Bryan before he was set to have a match with Triple H. However, the Shield came in to even the playing field. The next week, Batista, Orton, and the Game walked out to their iconic Evolution theme song, officially bringing the group back together. They got their revenge of the Shield that night, which set up a match between the two teams at Extreme Rules. Roman Reigns, Seth Rollins, and Dean Ambrose came out on top in that encounter, but Evolution wasn't done yet. In the following weeks, Batista and his teammates made the Shield's lives miserable, forcing the Hounds of Justice to ask for a rematch, which Evolution accepted. Their second encounter happened at Payback and was a no-holds-barred elimination match that was absolutely insane. Despite that, the Shield proved that Evolution hadn't evolved enough, and Batista, Randy, and Triple H were sent packing. The next night, Batista demanded he get a one-on-one World Championship match. When Triple H didn't give it to him, the Animal quit. And just like that, Batista's second run in WWE was over. This was done so that Batista could go and do promotion for Guardians of the Galaxy. Similar to 2010, Batista wouldn't be seen in WWE for over 4 years. But on October 16th, 2018, SmackDown celebrated its 1000th episode, so naturally, one of the greatest factions in Monday Night Raw history reunited. Batista returned to join Randy Orton, Ric Flair, and Triple H for an Evolution reunion. However, Batista would take a shot at the game by mentioning that Triple H had never beaten him in a one-on-one match. It seemed to upset the King of Kings, but the two hugged it out. Little did we know, this was only the beginning. About 4 months later, WWE celebrated the 70th birthday of Ric Flair. Fans and wrestlers were waiting for the Nature Boy to make his entrance, but nothing happened. Then, Batista made an unannounced appearance backstage and attacked Ric Flair. Now that he had Triple H's attention, Batista said he always felt the game held him down, which is why he wanted a match against the King of Kings at WrestleMania 35. Triple H accepted, but made the match no holds barred. Batista upped the stakes by saying if the game lost, then he would be forced to retire. The stage was set, and now it was time for Batista's last match. Unfortunately for the Animal, he did not start the night on the right foot as he tripped his way into the ring. Still, the Animal was intense as he stared down Triple H's dad, who was watching ringside, as well as Shawn Michaels, who was doing commentary. Thankfully, Triple H made time out of his schedule from filming Mad Max 5 to be there for the match. Finally, the bell rang and Batista started very aggressively, but Triple H gave it right back and sent the Animal out of the ring. Batista fought back and threw the game's body all over the ringside area. Triple H then made use of the no-holds-barred stipulation and hit Batista with a toolbox. The King of Kings then pulled out a chain and began whipping and choking out his opponent. After discarding the weapon, Triple H pulled out a pair of pliers and used them to twist Batista's arm and damage his fingers. The assault continued with a chair shot to the Animal's back, followed by Triple H yanking Batista's nose ring out with another pair of pliers. Just as it was looking like the 6-time world champion was out, he caught Triple H and slammed him onto the announcer's table. The Animal gave his former Evolution leader a second table smack and not one, but 2 Irish whips into the barricade. Batista got the fight back into the ring, where he started using his own body as a weapon. Triple H briefly turned things around, but the Animal countered the game's attempt at a pedigree. The match continued, but it was clear the battle was taking its toll. Batista signaled for the end with a Batista bomb through the announcer's table, only for Triple H to counter his opponent's finisher. The Cerebral Assassin then followed up with a spear that sent Batista's spine blasting through a table. The two men struggled to get to their feet, but Triple H found the strength to grab a sledgehammer. Before he could use it, Batista hit a spear from out of nowhere. The Animal then got a hold of the hammer, but Triple H responded with a boot to the face. Batista then did the same to Triple H and added in a spine buster. Batista also hit his finisher, but didn't get the job done. The Animal's next move was to bring the steel steps and set his opponent on the top turnbuckle. The plan backfired though, and Triple H gave Batista a powerbomb onto the steps, followed by a pedigree. However, Batista somehow kicked out. The Animal then blocked a sledgehammer shot and gave the King of Kings a DDT onto the steel steps. Just then, Ric Flair appeared and handed Triple H a second sledgehammer. The Nature Boy then distracted Batista, allowing Triple H to deliver a fatal blow to the Animal, followed by a pedigree for the 1, 2, 3. This was definitely a top-tier final match, and Triple H was arguably a perfect opponent for Batista, especially when you consider the first person Batista physically fought in WWE was Triple H. As for the match at WrestleMania 35, it was pretty good, and my only real complaint is that it was a bit sloppy. Like, you can see Batista adjusting the chain so it's around his mouth, and Triple H's head clearly didn't hit the steel steps. However, this is still an excellent match and a great way to end the career of the Animal, Batista. Mark Henry's last match wasn't quite so good. To see it for yourself, hit the video on screen.